What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to get into some breakout running backs. We're going to cover my top five, and we're going to be targeting rookie running backs and year two running backs. We have Alvin Kamara, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson, all killed it their rookie year. We have guys like CMC explode in year two. Every year, we want to be targeting these young running backs that don't have that market value just yet, because that's when you're getting a lot of the profit in these fantasy football leagues. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the video. Make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go. Now, first up, we're going to be talking about Jonathan Taylor, who's going at a sleeper ADP of 107 as the RB7. Right now, I'm using sleeper ADP because I think that's where most of you guys are drafting your home leagues or leagues with your buddies. Let me know if there's a different platform I should be using. But before we even get into that, let's talk about why we're targeting second-year running backs. And this is going to be the year, as I'll show on this chart, where running backs are breaking out most often. This is a chart shown by Blair Andrews, and you can see over year two, that's where the chart has that little bump the highest. That's when these running backs are breaking out. Now, to be honest with you guys, Jonathan Taylor has kind of already broke out, to be honest. He was like RB8 last year. But year two running backs also produce more fantasy points. And year two is actually the only year where running backs increase in fantasy scoring, as showed by this chart. It's pretty crazy because we know that running backs, they have a small shelf life. So most of the time they're going to rise up, and then they're going to decrease in value. But that year two is usually where that peak is, or not that peak, but where we see that huge jump from year one to year two. So we know that wide receivers have a big year two jump, but with the running backs, it happens in year two as well. Now, if Jonathan Taylor can add on top of his 16.9 points per game last year, he was RB8, he's going to absolutely smash this year. And now I know that this is kind of a vanilla breakout candidate. This isn't anything groundbreaking, but I wanted to list Jonathan Taylor here because I have him ranked as like my 109, 110 in the rankings, but I've seen him go mid to early second round because people are kind of, there's some pause there because of the Carson Wentz injury, because of the Quentin Nelson injury. But I kind of wanted to give you guys my vote of confidence so you guys draft Jonathan Taylor without any type of pause, because I think that Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson, they both sound like they're trending towards starting week one. And even if the Colts start slow, I think that Jonathan Taylor is going to be fine. Now, you can see by this tweet, the Colts go from having the toughest schedule through 5 weeks to the easiest rest of season schedule. Even with Frank Reich as coach, he's a second half guy. He wins more games in the second half of the season. So I think that there's a setup here where Taylor could start slow to start the season, but I think he's going to ramp up. I think he's going to be fine. And I think he could really, light things on fire this year. Jonathan Taylor is a stud running back. I want to bet on that talent. Regardless of what's going on with the situation, even without Quentin Nelson, they still have a top 10 offensive line. With Quentin Nelson, it's like a top 2 offensive line. So he's going to have his running lanes. This is still like well-coached organization, and he was a stud last year. If we see any kind of improvement, we're talking about a legit, like, top of the league type running back. Last year, he was third in rushing yards as a rookie. He was top 10 in missed tackles forced, and he was top 10 in breakaway run percentage on PFF. That was all as a rookie. He's one of the best prospects we've ever seen. He rushed for over 6,000 yards in 3 years at Wisconsin. So we're talking about a guy who was a stud prospect. He also ran a 4.39 at 226 pounds. So we're talking about a legit prospect who then came out in year one and dominated. And when we look at a list of running backs that are stud prospects and came out in year one and dominated, so I'm going to put this on the screen. This is from my sophomore database. And we're talking about some crazy names. Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson are all in his range of outcomes. And if we think that he is going to be the next one of those guys, we need to be buying in, because I truly do think that Jonathan Taylor has that legendary upside that I'm always talking about. Now, he might not get there the way that an Alvin Kamara, a Christian McCaffrey gets there with the receiving upside, because Jonathan Taylor isn't that type of receiving back. But I think that he does have that Todd Gurley type game, Dalvin Cook type game, where he can get there on efficiency, long runs and touchdowns, and then also have, 70, 80 targets. He can get there on he could be a guy that could just have 6 50-yard touchdown runs. He's going to be hyper efficient, and he could get there on like 3 to 4 catches a game. So grab this guy at the end of round one, lock him in as your RB1, and you can just set and forget that. Now, another guy that I'm drafting that I feel much more, strongly about is DAndre Swift. He's going at an ADP of 306 right now as the RB16. And I don't think that his ADP makes a lot of sense to me. I was talking about this on yesterday's video with the Anchor RB, and I just don't understand how we have Miles Sanders, who had a great rookie season. He then goes at the 1-2 turn. Miles Sanders is not even a fraction as good as DAndre Swift. Then you have Christian McCaffrey. He was pretty good in his rookie season. He goes at the 1-2 turn. DAndre Swift has similar skill sets to both of those players. I'm confused why he's not going at the 1-2 turn. And if it's because of a situation, which we'll get into in a second, I'm buying that discount all day. The disrespect is crazy on him. What he did in his rookie year was insane. He was the RB16 in points per game on a 48% opportunity share. He was literally in a committee and was a mid-tier running back too. That's about his floor. What he's looking at right now is a committee where he's on a bad team like he was last year, and he could still be in that RB16 range, which would be fine. When we look at his rookie season, remember, we can't just copy and paste year 1 to year 2. There has to be an ascension there. Players get better. They progress from year 1 to year 2. And when you look at his rookie season, it compares to guys like David Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell. When we sort on RotoViz by the top 10 comparable players from year 1, you get those kinds of comparisons. And we remember what David Johnson did in his second year in the league. He was the RB1 overall. DAndre Swift has that in his range of outcomes. Now, I do have a video where I go deeper into DAndre Swift. I might link it somewhere. I'm not sure. But let's cover briefly real quick why I'm not scared off by Jamal Williams at all, or the Detroit coaching. I know that that's a lot of what people are saying on Twitter. Jamal Williams is there. They don't trust Anthony Lynn. Let's talk about Jamal Williams for a second. First of all, the guy is a career backup. He has never been a starter in the league. He is set to make $1.65 million this year. That is less than James Conner. We're talking about a backup running back, a career backup. He's not this massive threat, so that's why I don't really understand. And I'll even put his efficiency stats on the screen from last year. Let me know if anything stands out. Let me know if in any category he looked great as a running back. And then people pivot to, well, he's going to be the goal line back. He's going to take away DAndre Swift's goal line touches. Jamal Williams has a BMI of 28.7 at 212 pounds. DAndre Swift is the same weight. He's just more compact. So he's 212 pounds, but has a 32.2 BMI. He's thicker. Swift also got more carries inside the 5 last year. He scored 6 times on 9 attempts. DAndre Swift was already the goal line back. I know they're bringing in new coaches, but we already saw with Jamal Williams. He didn't have as many goal line carries as Swift did last year as a rookie on a 48% opportunity share. Swift will be that goal line back for at least the majority of the inside the 5 carries. I expect Swift to operate much like Aaron Jones did alongside Jamal Williams. Will Jamal Williams be annoying from time to time? Yes, but Aaron Jones has this really unique role in a 60% opportunity share where he gets the targets and he gets the goal line touches. He gets all of the valuable touches, and then he gives everything else to Jamal Williams. That's what we're going to see with DAndre Swift. He's going to get all the targets. He's going to get a 60% plus of the goal line carries, and that's going to be all he really needs. Now, I'm not buying too much into the idea that his coaches are a reason to fade him. I don't really understand how we get there. Anthony Lynn and Dan Campbell have had great success with fantasy running backs. We're talking about Anthony Lynn, who came from the LA Chargers, who had Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. 2 fantasy studs of the last 5 years. Then we have Dan Campbell, who was with Alvin Kamara, a fantasy stud of the last 4 years. And I love this tweet from a guy on Twitter, Boots. He's a great follow. Campbell comes from New Orleans, who are number 1 in RB scoring the past 5 years. Lynn comes from the LA Chargers, who was number 3 in the past 5 years. And their running back assistant head coach, Deuce Staley, comes from the Eagles, who were number 6. Where in here are we seeing that these coaches are going to hold back DAndre Swift? If anything, they all understand the role that DAndre Swift needs, and they're going to put him in that role. Especially when we're talking about Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler. Those are 2 prototypes for what we want DAndre Swift to be. I don't understand how they botch this, and I know that Anthony Lynn's a bad real-life coach. He's bad situationally, he's bad with time clock management, but in terms of fantasy production, he is not an Adam Gase-type coach where he's holding these players back. Adam Gase held back the entire offense. Last year, the Chargers were great. Keenan Allen was great. Justin Herbert was great. The whole offense was great. If Anthony Lynn was such a bad coach, he would have held back that entire offense the same way that an Adam Gase does. So I'm not really buying into the fact that Swift can't produce because of Anthony Lynn. I think that Swift will be just fine. I'm firing him up in the 3rd round because I'm telling you he is going to pay off big. I think that DAndre Swift could be a guy we're talking about going in next year's 1st round of drafts, like as the 105, 106. He could make that type of jump. Now, when we talk about our last year 2 running back on this list, we're going to talk about Zack Moss. He's going at the 9-12 on Sleeper right now as the RB39, and I'm starting to warm up to Zack Moss. I didn't really love him coming out. I didn't love him in the beginning of the season, but I think that he's starting to become a really good zero RB type candidate for a few reasons. And I think the first one is that he's not that bad. I don't think that he's some stud running back, but he's pretty good at making people miss, which is, that counts for something. He finished 7th in juke rate, 7th in yards created per touch. So he's making people miss. He's getting yards on his own. So that's always a good sign. And the team has decent draft capital invested in him. I don't mind some Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary was a 3rd-round pick the year prior, and then they went out the next year and grabbed Zack Moss in the 3rd round. Now, I could be wrong. Devin Singletary could be a 4th-rounder, but I'm not sure. What I will say is that going out the next year and drafting a running back with the same or better draft capital means that they're not sold on Devin Singletary. So we have the teams behind him. He looked pretty good making people miss last year. So I think he's going to operate in this 1A back, and we want that role. He's going to be on a high-powered offense, and we want to target these types of roles. Now, that's kind of what we're avoiding in the dead zone, where we're targeting running backs because of roles, not because of talent. I don't mind doing that in the 9th, 10th round with the Zack Moss. You get him in as your RB2, and he's going to be in a really good situation. Now, I was fading Moss initially and Singletary because I think that it's really easy to say that Josh Allen is going to be the goal line back. And I think that there's a good chance that he is. But when we're paying in these later rounds, the thesis is that the way that your bet pays off with a Zack Moss, and this does make sense, the Bills just invested a huge contract into Josh Allen. In a regular season game against the Jets, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to keep using Josh Allen as their goal line back. I think in regular season games, we could see them, go away from putting Josh Allen on the goal line and putting his health at risk like that, because they're not going to want to put their franchise quarterback at risk. You see this a lot of the times. Patrick Mahomes his scrambling has gone down. They're going to probably want Josh Allen to be a little bit more tame, especially on the goal line. They don't want him clashing into people and doing all that. Well, I'm not even saying they don't want that, but there's a scenario out there that's kind of what the front office is thinking, and I think there's a decent chance that that's what the front office is thinking. So if that happens, and they defer to Zack Moss on the goal line, we're talking about a high-powered offense that runs a lot of plays. Now you're looking at Zack Moss, who could score 10-plus touchdowns in an offense like this. Like, remember, like Garrett Blount with the Patriots. He wasn't that good, but when you have a high-scoring offense, that lead running back could just fall into the end zone 10 or more times. So we could see Zack Moss just fall into the end zone 10 times and rush for like 1,000 yards. And that would be huge. He would pay off massively on his ADP. So that's why I'm kind of warming up to a Zack Moss. Now, we're going to talk about the rookies here. And I was excited because this was supposed to be ETN's spot. And it sucks, man. It sucks. Literally last night, in a league with the Fantasy Stock Exchange and some of the patrons, Hussimo was in there too. In the 5th round, I took Travis Etienne. It was a beautiful 0 RB start. We go Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett. We come back around, we grab Etienne, and we feel so pretty, man. That team looked so good. And I drafted him in the 5th round. No earlier than 10 minutes before his injury was announced. Now, I'm an idiot. I wish that I was watching the game a little bit closer, because I guess he was limping on the sidelines, and then maybe I don't pick him there. I don't know, man, but it sucks. I have ETN everywhere. I have ETN on all my dynasty teams. I have ETN on all my redraft teams. Not all of them, but a good amount. And it sucks, man. It sucks, because now we're looking at a situation with ETN. I'm not gonna ramble on too much about ETN, but we're looking at a situation where we're dealing with a Rashad Penny type situation here, where he redshirts his first year and then he just never gets back, man. He gets behind to James Robinson, and we have a Chris Carson, Rashad Penny situation. I don't know, man. It's sad, but we'll bring things back up to speed, and we're going to talk about Javonte Williams. Now, I did just do a solo video on Javonte Williams, but Javonte Williams is our next best opportunity where we can find a rookie running back in the middle rounds that can absolutely smash. And why we want to be targeting these rookie running backs is because of their anti-fragile nature. Now remember, in the 0 RB video, I talked about how anti-fragility means that, or when other teams take hits, you benefit. When the chaos of the season happens, you benefit. You're not at risk of the chaos of the season. That's what rookie running backs are, because, or at least the ones drafted in rounds 1 and round 2, because their team invests heavy capital in them and they want to see them play. Their role might not be big in week 1, but if the team struggles, then they want to give their young playmaker touches. Now, Ben Gretsch goes over this really well in his article that he dropped on Twitter, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. Now, if they succeed, they're likely to give their playmaker more touches. Okay, now we're up in this game. Let's give our playmaker touches. Or if injuries happen. So say Melvin Gordon goes down. Javonte Williams comes in. He gets propelled to new heights as an RB1. If the running back gets a few touches and he looks good, he makes people miss, he scores a touchdown, then he's going to earn more touches in the season. As the season goes on, in almost every situation, the rookie running back is increasing his value. So while in the beginning of the season, you're drafting him kind of near his floor, where he's supposed to be like this back-end RB2, RB26 is where you're grabbing Javonte Williams in the 6th round. He's supposed to be a back-end RB2, but as the season progresses, and he kind of shows some flashes, does his thing, he's going to work his way up to, RB18, RB16, RB15. Then he becomes an every week RB2, and he can even work his way up from there. Javonte Williams has that path, and that's why we want to target these round 1 and round 2 rookies. And it sucks that we couldn't do it with ETN, because the same exact thesis is there for ETN. Now, zooming in on Javonte Williams, I love this, whole concept for Javonte, because I think he's a really strong prospect, and I think Miami loves him. Now, I know Melvin Gordon is there, but I like Javonte Williams' chances to break out. The front office, they used huge draft capital on him. They traded up, they leapfrogged Miami, and they grabbed him with their 35th overall pick. I said this in my video about Javonte Williams. That's DeAndre Swift's range. That is ahead of where Jonathan Taylor was taken last year, ahead of Cam Akers, ahead of J.K. Dobbins. This is legit draft capital that we're doing here. And you don't invest that type of capital in a running back, especially in a day and age where running backs aren't getting taken in the 1st round. I know they just were, but we just had Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers all not go in the 1st round. So running backs going in the 1st round isn't as common, and they're all getting pushed down the board. So when we see a team trade up, grab a running back, that's huge. And J.J. Zacharyson did a really cool study where he found that historically running backs who've been traded up for in the draft have produced better than their counterparts. We've seen round 2 and round 3 trade up running backs average 1.7 more PPR points per game during their rookie campaign than backs who weren't taken with a trade up. And their first seasons also saw an uptick in rush attempts of about 22. So he's already at an advantage above all the other rookie running backs ever, because his team traded up for him. So he's going to get more opportunity early. They're going to give him every chance to succeed. And if he takes whatever they give him and he looks good and he shines, then we're talking about a real breakout candidate. We just saw DeAndre Swift last year on a bad team get a 40% opportunity share and was the RB16. I think Javonte Williams can get that, 50% opportunity share, almost out the gate and produce back-end RB2 numbers, but he could have that upside where he does look really good and he beats out Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon's washed, or he gets, Melvin Gordon pulls a hammy, or Melvin Gordon gets traded to the Rams, or he gets traded to the Jaguars. There's all of these scenarios that Javonte Williams can benefit from. It's like in poker. Like Javonte Williams has a million outs to pay off. That's what we really want. He can either be so good that he's undeniable. He can work into another role. Melvin Gordon could be dust. Melvin Gordon could get hurt. Melvin Gordon could get traded. He could get cut. There's a billion scenarios where Javonte Williams pays off. So I'm going to keep on betting on that, because I think Javonte Williams has a legit shot to finish inside the top 15 running backs in 2021. Now, the last running back we're going to talk about in our top 5 is going to be Trey Sermon. And he's one of my favorite zero running back targets in that round 7 to 9 range. He's going at the 803 on Sleeper as the RB33. Remember, this is a running back that was handpicked by Kyle Shanahan, and he has that big play upside, and that benefits him a lot in this 49ers offense that has huge running lanes. Remember, at Ohio State, he had like a game for over 300 rushing yards. He had a game against like Clemson where he went off for like 190 plus rushing yards. He has really high upside in this offense that's going to have wide running lanes, and Shanahan's going to want to use him. And we want to take shots at this backfield. This is a backfield that produces a lot of fantasy points. And this is a great tweet that I found where he said, over the last 2 seasons, San Francisco is one of only 3 backfields to average 30 or more touches on a per game basis. And over the last 2 seasons, they are one of 2 backfields to finish in the top 5 in fantasy points by the RB position. So if you just look at San Francisco 49ers running back, they score a lot of fantasy points. So we want to take our swing on that guy. And even if Trey Sermon gets 50% of the pie, 45% of the pie, it's a bigger pie to begin with than most other backfields. And there's going to be a lot of fantasy points. They're going to score a lot of points this year. It's a great offense. So you just want to have a piece of that, especially when we're talking about a rookie running back that's, kind of a black box. It's a mystery box in terms of Trey Sermon. We don't know what he looks like on an NFL field. He could just go out there and he kind of, now that I say it, he kind of does feel eerily similar to Antonio Gibson last year. Rookie running back in the 3rd round. You got him in like the 8th round of your draft. No one really knew what to expect from him. And he came out there and he absolutely ran away with the role. So we could see that from Trey Sermon. Now, I did like Antonio Gibson better as a prospect, but we could easily see that from Trey Sermon. Now, that's going to do it for today. As always, all of these guys are going to be, a little bit higher on my rankings. I'm prioritizing getting these young running backs that are ascending, that are breaking out for your fantasy team. So if you want to check those out, remember, I have my tiers, my top 250, Superflex, one quarterback, all there on my rankings down below in the Patreon. If you want to dominate your home leagues for literally $5, you don't have to go buy somebody's draft guide. It is all there on the Patreon. And what comes in that $5 is not only my rankings, my tiers, but it's also literally a direct line to me in the Discord where you can ask me about trade advice, waiver wire questions, start sits, all of that. I'm telling you, there's no one out there that's giving more for less in the fantasy football space. Now, that's going to do it for us. Let me know down below. Do you agree with these breakout running backs? Are there any guys that I glossed over? Other guys I wanted to put on this list were A.J. Dillon. I like Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard isn't a year 2 or a rookie guy. But I'm going to leave, kind of those zero RB fringy candidates for, we're going to do a sleeper video in the near future where I go over my favorite zero RB candidates. I think that video will be really fun. But yeah, man, we're on an absolute tear right now. I'm out here grinding every day, putting together video outlines, editing these videos myself, and pumping them out for you guys because you guys are showing crazy love. I've never had this many views on my videos, so if you guys keep on showing the love, I'll keep on grinding, putting in these hours for you. And yeah, man, the support's been huge. My goal when I was talking, behind closed doors with Hussy Mo was like 2.5K for week 1. I think we're gonna hit that. What is it today? Like August? I don't know. It's like August 24th or 25th. I think we're going to hit that before we even get to September 1st. So you guys have been killing it. Make sure you go down below, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. And I'm going to keep pumping out these daily videos for you guys. I just mapped out all of the uploads from now through week 1. So I got a lot of really, really special stuff planned out for you guys. That's going to do it for today. Tomorrow we're going to be doing top 5 breakout wide receivers to go with this video. And that's going to do it, man. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey Joey, I'm just gonna stop rapping. I'm gonna stop rapping right now on this song. Not in general, but just on this song, cause I ain't trying to destroy these niggas. Sight! Hey, grind on my dick like a ripstick, my body count is like 60, Your bitch told me she needs CPR. I fought that bitch right on deep.